Welcome to the Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. I'm Roger Paxton, and from the state where Regnat Populus, the people rule.
Bullshit.
This is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the liberty movement need to know. This is episode 1, Why Another Libertarian Podcast. And on this inaugural episode, election season is over, or as some say, the next election season has begun. State is Gonna State featured Barack Obama this episode. Morodes, Disney edition. How to live a lava lifestyle in a state of society. But first, what's rustling my jimmies today? So today I wanted to commence with the raison d'etre of this show. When I've mentioned doing a libertarian show to people, the question I most often get is, why a new libertarian podcast? Don't you know there's already plenty of them out there, and I only have so much commute time for podcasts? Okay, so nobody has really said that to me because I've only told a couple of people that I was planning to put out the show anyway, but this is certainly what I kept telling myself over the last couple of years every time the idea of doing this would creep into my head again. Then I would take my long commute to work and listen to other libertarian shows, and the thought of ever starting this endeavor would slowly dissipate. And I'm right. I mean, there are lots of great libertarian shows out there already, like The Tom Woods Show, Anarcast, The Bad Quaker, The Libertarian Solution, Free Thoughts, Free Talk Live, The Freedom Line, and so on. I listen to all of these that I've listed and many others, but on the other hand, unfortunately, there are many not-so-great libertarian shows out there as well. Now, I'm not going to be an asshole and list all of these, but you know what I'm talking about. So why would I want to compete with these shows? Well, that's just the thing. I don't see myself as competing with these shows. I mean, I know there's no way that I can put out a great show every single day, day in and day out, like Tom Woods does. I know there's absolutely no way that I can compare my knowledge with the likes of Jeff Berwick, Ben Stone, Trevor Burrus, and Ian Freeman, and many others. I don't expect you to stop listening to these great shows and just listen to the Lava Flow. But I at least hope that I give you some consideration to adding this show into your listening rotation for a while, just to see what we've got to offer. So why am I doing this show then? Am I doing it because I'm bored? Definitely not. Between a very technical and stressful job, an awesome wife, amazing kids, 2 dogs and 2 turtles, I stay pretty damn busy as it is. So exactly why am I doing this? What is going on? Because I have something to say. Yes, I know. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's ever done a show believes they have something to say, but goddammit, I really do. I am tired of yelling at my laptop when I read an article of some more stupid shit the statists say, some new Facebook post of sheeple praising the state, or listening to some politician tells me that only he knows what's best for me and my family. My wife is tired of hearing me bitch about some new thing that the government fucks up, or some new report of a rogue cop beating or killing or raping or insert violent verb here. I need an outlet. And I think a lot of what I have to say may be interesting to some people out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd bet dollars to donuts that I'm not. So now we know why I'm torturing myself by doing this show, but what would make you want to listen to it? Well, here are just a few reasons. If you've ever told someone to stop aggressing you, then you may want to listen to this show. If you think that no one should ever go to jail just for smoking flowers, then you may want to listen to this show. If you know the conversion ratio of silver to Bitcoin at any given moment, then you may want to listen to this show. If your bug-out bag includes a copy of the book For a New Liberty by Murray Rothbard, then you may want to listen to this show. If you refuse to go on a date with a person who doesn't have an opinion on intellectual property, then you may want to listen to this show. If someone has ever left a comment on one of your social media posts saying, "But who will build the roads?" then you may want to listen to this show. If you've ever called someone a statist for saying the Pledge of Allegiance, then you may want to listen to this show. If you're sick of anti-spying conservatives who hate the NSA today, but were fine with the Patriot Act under George W. Bush, then you may want to listen to this show. If you're tired of anti-war liberals who have remained completely silent every single time Barack Obama bombs more brown people, but went to every single answer protest in the country prior to 2009, then you may want to listen to this show. So if this describes you, strap in, grab your intoxicating substance of choice, and listen up, because the lava flow is here.
This week in the news.
Thank God election season is finally over. Or is it? Of course, as we all know, the Republican Party is already gearing up for the next presidential election just 2 years from now. Whether it's Rand Paul, Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, or Joe Biden, many of the candidates have already begun preparations for the race. The question is, are the American people ready for it? The answer to that is an unequivocal hell no. By most calculations, election turnout was anywhere from 33 to 37% of the eligible voters in the country. In a country where only about 70% of the people eligible to vote are registered anyway, this is a very low turnout. Using these numbers, this means that only about 50 million people voted in this election. This means that less than 1/6 of the 317 million people in this country chose our rulers for the next 2 years. Yep, this is moral. Now, I'm not advocating for not voting, nor am I advocating for voting. Rothbard saw voting as an act of defense. Others see it as an act of consent to the government, or even as an act of aggression. As Samuel Edward Konkin III said in his article Reply to Rothbard, quote, "Can you imagine slaves on a plantation sitting around voting for masters and spending their energy on campaigning and candidates when they could be heading for the Underground Railway? Surely they would choose the counter-economic alternative," end quote. I believe there's merit with both of these libertarian arguments. I mean, I personally choose a middle road. I voted only for libertarian candidates in my state, 10 of them to be exact, and only for the ballot initiatives that were on the ballot. I refuse to vote for anyone who is not a libertarian. Yet I will also vote on ballot initiatives that may immediately increase liberty for myself, my family, and others. And this may not work for you, and that's fine. But at least have a conviction on why you do or do not vote, and be able to explain that conviction. In what may be considered a victory for libertarians, Washington, D.C., Oregon, and Alaska all passed recreational marijuana legislation laws this year. A similar law failed in Florida, where in 2006 the voters had already passed a law requiring a supermajority of 60% to pass constitutional amendments. The recreational marijuana amendment only received 58% of the vote. Ironically, the law to require a supermajority to pass constitutional amendments in 2006 only passed with 57.8% of the vote. Now, of course, we can have the argument all day of what's better, prohibition or heavy regulation and government involvement. I personally would much prefer to see strong decriminalization laws in these states, but many are calling these new laws libertarian victories. As an aside, Measure 91 in Oregon also compels the State Department of Agriculture to allow farmers to start growing hemp. There are now 13 states that allow for industrial hemp farming for research and commercial purposes. Also, Arizona became the 5th right-to-try state, making experimental drugs available to terminally ill patients. In other news on Election Day, Gary Johnson, former Republican governor of New Mexico and Libertarian presidential candidate in 2012, made the announcement that he would, quote, like to seek the Libertarian nomination for president again in 2016. On the Steve Malzberg show on Newsmax TV, when asked if Rand Paul was libertarian enough for him, Johnson said,
"Well, first of all, I think the world of Rand Paul, and on half the issues, I think he's right on. But the whole social issue thing, look, I think libertarians are flaming liberals when it comes to social issues, when it comes to civil liberties, and so a woman's right to choose, drug reform, immigration, marriage equality.
And you're saying he's not there.
Well, he's not there. He's not there. And
could you see yourself supporting him?
Well, you could possibly see that. I hope to be able to do this again myself, and I wouldn't be doing this.
Okay, might you run again in 2016?
Well, it's a possibility, but point is, nobody's saying what I'm saying, and that's this whole notion of being fiscally
You're leaning towards it more so than not?
Well, I'd like to. I would like to.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You know what? I just think the whole election is a big yawn, in my opinion. I mean, who cares who wins, because nothing's really going to change. I mean, I liken it to Coke and Pepsi. They're debating over which one tastes better. You know, when they start talking about tax policy, Coke wants to reduce the corporate tax rate to 30%. Pepsi wants to drop it to 28%. Where's the libertarian viewpoint which says do away with it completely? Do away with income tax, corporate tax, abolish the IRS, and if you're going to replace it with anything, replace it with a national consumption tax. That's real meat on the bones. I just don't see any meat anywhere.
Although the flat tax is one area where I do fully disagree with Johnson, I do love to hear him calling for the absolute abolishment for the income tax and corporate tax. I do have to say I agree more on this issue with Murray Rothbard, as he said in For a New Liberty. Quote, "The Libertarian looks forward to eventual abolition of taxes. It is perfectly legitimate for him, as a strategic measure in that desired direction, to push for a drastic reduction or repeal of the income tax. But the Libertarian must never support any new tax or tax increase. For example, he must not, while advocating a large cut in income taxes, also call for its replacement by a sales or other form of tax. The reduction, or better, the abolition of tax, is always a non-contradictory reduction of state power and a significant step towards liberty. But its replacement by a new or increased tax elsewhere does just the opposite, for it signifies new and additional imposition of the state on some other front. The imposition of a new or higher tax flatly contradicts and undercuts the libertarian goal itself." Johnson went on to say,
I think people are clamoring to hear good ideas as opposed to the lesser of two evils. I mean, that's the big yawn here, is it's all about the lesser of two evils and win. You know, who wins? Well, either the Democrats are going to win, the Republicans are going to win, but the losers are all of us out here as citizens that really do want meaningful change, and none of it's happening. There's no dialogue regarding meaningful change.
I agree with this statement completely. We're all losers in the process. As Ron Paul tweeted the evening of the elections, quote, "Looks like a big Republican win tonight. Power shift? Yes. Philosophy shift? No." He also tweeted, quote, "Republican control of the Senate. Expanded neocon wars in Syria and Iraq. Boots on the ground are coming." I couldn't agree more.
America, 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 fuck yeah, coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah, America, fuck yeah, freedom is the only way, yeah, terrorists, your game.
Statist's got a state.
Not too long ago, President Barack Obama made a comment that we, as Americans, don't want mothers staying home and raising their children. Instead, in order to make America stronger, we need to enroll them in high-quality preschool. There's so many things wrong with this entire statement here that I'm going to have to break it down step by step. But first, here is your president in his own words.
Moms and dads deserve a great place to drop their kids off every day that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. We need better childcare, daycare, early childhood education policies. You know, in many states, sending your child to daycare costs more than sending them to a public university. True? And sometimes someone, usually mom, leaves the workplace to stay home with the kids, which then leaves her earning a lower wage for the rest of her life as a result. And that's not a choice we want Americans to make. So let's make this happen. By the end of this decade, let's enroll 6 million children in high-quality preschool. And let's make sure that we are making America stronger. That is good for families. It's also good for the children, because we know investing in high-quality early childhood education makes all the difference in the world. And those kids will do better.
Wow. Just wow. So let's break this down a little bit.
Moms and dads deserve a great place to drop their kids off every day that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg.
As Barack Obama would say, let me be clear. Parents don't deserve a great place to drop off their kids every day. I mean, parents deserve to be great parents to their children, nothing more. What have parents done to deserve a great place to drop off their kids? Nothing. Now, I think it's great if parents have the choice of having some time without their children every once in a while, but to think it's deserved as if it's some right or something, and that everybody else in the country should subsidize this is just patently absurd.
We need better childcare, daycare, early childhood education policies. In many states, sending your child to daycare costs more than sending them to a public university.
Okay, so while I do agree that we do need better childcare and daycare for parents who choose to use these services, government regulations will not give us these results. First, government regulations really only serve to raise prices and shut out competition, which is antithetical to choice and lowers the quality of the overall product. And yes, many states that have heavily regulated daycare do cost more than sending kids to a public university. Regulations are costly, and many times are supported and lobbied for by companies that are in those specific industries being regulated. Why? Because those established, large companies in these industries can easily absorb the cost of heavy regulations to shut out their smaller competitors. Again, this raises prices and lowers quality. Public universities are given extremely heavy taxpayer-funded subsidies specifically to lower these costs. Daycares, while subsidized to a certain extent, do not receive even close to the percentage of subsidies as public universities do. So we have massive regulations by the government to raise costs in daycare. Then Obama bitches that these regulations have raised the cost of daycare. Go figure.
And sometimes someone, usually mom, leaves the workplace to stay home with the kids, which then leaves her earning a lower wage for the rest of her life as a result. And that's not a choice we want Americans to make.
Well, this is just complete bullshit. Who is this we that he's talking about that doesn't want Americans to make this choice to begin with? Barack and Michelle? Progressives? America as a whole? I mean, I was raised by a wonderful stay-at-home mother. My two boys are homeschooled and raised by a stay-at-home mother. My wife and I made a conscious choice to limit her financial marketability by having her stay home to give our children the absolute best opportunities that we possibly could. It was a tough choice, and not one that we ever took lightly, but it was much better than having them spend the better part of their childhood in government-owned and operated propaganda machines that will prepare them for a life of taking orders and worshiping the state. This was our choice, and I couldn't give a fuck less what Obama or any other statist thinks about it.
So let's make this happen. By the end of this decade, let's enroll 6 million children in high-quality preschool, and let's make sure that we are making America stronger. That is good for families. It's also good for the children because we know investing in high-quality early childhood education makes all the difference in the world. And those kids will do better.
And he goes on even to say in the next sentence, and I couldn't find audio for this part, but it's in the White House transcripts. So we need family leave. We need better child care policies. And we need to make sure that women get an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. Yes, let's make this happen. Let's enroll children of parents who choose to consume the product of preschool for their children into a high-quality product. The best way to do this is to completely remove government from the equation. I've already discussed how government regulations only serves to increase prices while reducing quality. But using force on employers to pay for family leave and to pay the same pay dollar for dollar for employees who do not bring the same value to the company is not the way to handle this. Let's go through a thought experiment. As I said, my wife and I chose for her to stay home when we had kids so that we could give our kids a quality education and home life while keeping them from being indoctrinated to statism. By doing this, we necessarily reduced my wife's marketability in her field of choice, which was public relations. Why does this reduce her marketability? Because if later she decides to enter the market again when our children are older, she has missed many years of increasing her skills and resume by her choice to stay home. She will miss many years of keeping up with new innovations and ideas in her field and miss many opportunities for advancement and raises due to our choice. To say this was a difficult choice for us especially her, is to put it lightly. But we both know we made the right choice for our children. Now, is it fair that when she enters the market later, she won't make the same pay as a man who stayed in public relations all these years, increasing his marketability all that time? Of course it's fair. Although to Obama and the progressives, this is considered sexist. For our thought experiment, what if we had chosen for me to stay home instead of working in my chosen career, information technology, while she worked throughout this entire time period? Would it be sexist if I entered the workforce after taking many years off to raise our kids, and I made less than a female who had never left the field for a time? Of course that's not sexist. So what's the difference?
Talk the talk. Do you walk the walk?
In this segment series, we'll be looking at ways to live a lava, libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, agorist lifestyle in the statist world. One of the most important things you can do is to come out of the closet, so to speak. Look, we've all been there. There are people in your lives that you may not want to know that you're a gasp libertarian or anarchist. You may not want people to think that you belong to a cult if you tell them you're an agorist or voluntarist. But there are many good reasons why you should wear these labels with pride and let everybody know your true philosophy. The first reason is that statists need to know real anti-statists. They need someone who they love to challenge their philosophy, or they may never change. If someone they love or someone they respect explains the non-aggression principle to them, they may just understand it more, or at least give the idea more thought or more weight than if they'd heard it from someone that they can just write off as crazy. And you never know. You may actually find people you love and respect that already are anti-statists and not even know it because they're in the closet as well. Another reason is that battles cannot be won from the sidelines. If you keep your mouth shut when others are talking politics at the water cooler, how are they ever going to hear a true dissenting opinion? Family gatherings, event with your friends, water cooler chat, etc. gets to be pretty tough to bear when all you hear are statist opinions and no alternative ideas. You could be that dissenting voice that challenges people to take a good hard look at their own positions. And look, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, that's reason number 3. Now, we all know that having a different political opinion is nothing to be ashamed of, but for many people it's tough to take a stand against the status quo. Yes, people will try to shame you for having the audacity to go against the state. Some people think you're crazy for not worshiping their masters. But stand tall and stand firm. You have the moral high ground here. And another reason is that you might actually have the opportunity to educate and to recruit. This could perhaps be the most important reason to come out. Having people you know who have the same moral, philosophical position as you is a huge help. The old adage, there are strengths in numbers, is true for so many reasons. If you come out to your friends and family and explain your positions calmly and rationally, people have no choice but to at least pay attention. Yes, many will still think you're crazy, but many will not. You may find that there are many types of people open to your ideas and want to learn more. And you may even recruit a few to our calls. Don't be discouraged if you don't have all of your friends calling themselves libertarians after one conversation with them, but they'll surely think about what you had to say, and if you say it right. My mother, a hardcore conservative, Bible-thumping Republican, and my father, a hardcore retired union-working Democrat, both voted straight libertarian this year. And more importantly, they voted to expand liberty by voting to make our state a full wet state, which my mother would have been against not long ago. And they both voted against the minimum wage increase, which my father would have voted for until recently. Not only that, but they both had sound, libertarian reasons for why they voted this way. Now this is progress. Yeah, this all sounds great, but how do I come out, you probably want to ask. Well, I would start by researching your ideas. Yeah, you need every bit of intellectual ammunition you can get. Read Rothbard and Hoppe. Watch YouTube. Read Mises.org and other resources online. Research. Focus a lot on current events, especially from a libertarian perspective. Think through these things. Figure out how to do things a different way without violence. Then tell people your opinions and what you think. It's really that simple. You already know how to communicate. Now you just need the intellectual chops to back up your positions. If you're nervous about these conversations face-to-face at first, then try these discussions out on Facebook or other social media where you can think about these topics and do a bit of quick research before you have to give your opinions. Talk about these things with other libertarians. There are many different ways to develop your skills in communicating these ideas. But always practice, practice, practice. Before long, people will start coming to you for opinions on ideas. Then you know you have them. In the show notes, I'll have several links to great articles and other resources to study and to help you understand to develop the intellectual ammunition that I've spoken of. I think that these things will really help. And please let me know if you have any questions or need some advice on how to handle certain situations. I'd be glad to help you out. You can shoot me an email at feedback@thelavaflow.com. In the next episode in this segment, we'll be discussing how to use Bitcoin, silver, and other monetary systems to lower your dependence on the Federal Reserve note. Don't miss that one.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Our family just recently returned from an incredible trip to Walt Disney World. It was our first trip there, and if you've never planned a visit, I can tell you that planning a trip to Disney World is a time-consuming task. My wife tends to be a tad obsessive about whatever current project she's working on. So while she was busy making dinner reservations, fast pass scheduling, and outfit coordinating, yes, she coordinated our outfits every day, she kept stumbling upon interesting facts about how Walt Disney World operates. Being her obsessive self, she couldn't just leave it at merely glancing at yet another 10 things you didn't know about Disney World list. And the more she dug, the more she fell in love. While Disney World obviously doesn't exist in a utopian bubble, I'm still amazed at their self-sufficiency, taking over services that the government normally provides. Now, to give you an idea of just how large Disney World really is, it's 40 square miles. That's about the size of San Francisco, or twice the size of Manhattan. They have more than 60,000 employees there, making them the largest single-site employer in the entire country. They spend more than $1 billion each year in payroll alone, and pay again almost half that much in benefits. With more than 50 million annual visitors, 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, a monorail system, 263 buses, 750 watercraft, more than 30,000 hotel rooms, and 100-plus restaurants. Disney World's operations easily rival that of very large cities. In the 60s, when Walt Disney World was in the beginning stages of land procurement and development, the nearest power and water lines were 10 to 15 miles away. Neither Orange nor Osceola County had the resources Walt Disney World needed to bring their project to life. So what was the answer? In 1967, the Florida State Legislature created a special taxing district called the Reedy Creek Improvement District that would act with the same authority and responsibility as a county government. The fine print? Walt Disney World would be responsible for funding this government on their own, with no financial help from Orange or Osceola counties. So Disney World operates with the same standard powers and autonomy of an incorporated city. So what can this private city of Disney World accomplish without the government's help? I'll start with the libertarian's favorite, roads. Walt Disney World built more than 70 miles of private roads without the government's help. God damn it, who knew that it could be done? Disney World built their own energy plants, their own maintenance shops. There was no distribution center in Central Florida to handle their needs, so the company built its own. And the same for laundry facilities, in which they handle more than 100,000 pounds of linen each day. During construction, miles of sewage, water, and electrical lines and pipes were laid. A wastewater treatment plant was built to treat water, and then they used their treated water for their tree farm and golf courses. Their own power plant produces part of their power needs. In a power outage, they use their own plant to provide complete emergency power. Disney World created their own support facilities to fabricate everything from trash cans and ride vehicles to signs and ornamental iron and woodwork. At Disney World, you will find a machine shop, a metal shop, a craft shop, a mill shop, and a paint shop. They provide their own maintenance services, electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, and even a dry dock for those 750 watercraft. Disney World built their own recycling plant and compost center. Wildlife preserves make up 1/3 of their property, and of course they take care of their own land. Without threat from the government, they choose to use beneficial insect release to reduce their use of pesticides. They use LED lights in 98% of decorations, signs, and Christmas trees. In Disney World's fleet, you can find more than 1,500 fuel-efficient vehicles. Disney World is working to be self-sufficient in their food needs as well. Each year, more than 30 tons of fruits and vegetables are grown in Epcot alone to be used in their own restaurants. Disney World even surpasses government building regulations by choice. In the 70s, the state legislature gave Disney World permission to write their own building codes. And wouldn't you know it, their non-government forced building codes were the most stringent in the country by choice. All of this just goes to prove that it doesn't take government force to create a self-sustainable, efficient city with roads. Thank you for listening today. I also need to thank my lovely wife for her patience and understanding as I begin this new endeavor. I sure hope her patience holds out. And I also need to thank her specifically for her help in writing and producing this podcast. She's absolutely the best, guys, for real. I also need to thank Sheltered Life for allowing me to use their music, and specifically their bassist and my closest friend since high school, Brian Lawson, for his help in getting me started with this show. From loaning me equipment, to helping me learn audio software, to editing, I couldn't have done it without him. And please, subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher, and like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. If you have a gumption, leave us a bit of feedback. It's much appreciated. You can also send us feedback by sending an email to feedback@thelavaflow.com. In a few episodes, I'll be starting a segment called Ask Me Anything, where I take your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and email and attempt to answer them. You can email askmeanything@thelavaflow.com, and I'll pick a couple of questions to answer each show. Starting in January, I'll also be inaugurating a new segment where I'll tell you all about upcoming libertarian events. If you have an event that you want me to talk about for free, just send me an email to events@thelavaflow.com. And most importantly, if you like what this show gives you so far and you want more of it, and more importantly to keep this show ad-free, exercise your free market muscles by going to patreon.com and giving a per-episode donation. There are monthly costs associated with doing this show, and there's equipment and many other things I need to get to continue making the show better for you every episode. Help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral. And until next time, keep striking the root.